Welcome to Dawn of the New Earth. My name is Morgue. I'm an ex-Christian revealing hidden knowledge to raise consciousness and transform the world. And today we're talking about the alchemical secrets hidden in the secret teachings of Jesus Christ, and it's going to be good. So what we're going to be taking a look at is all the elements hidden throughout the Gnostic texts that describe methods of magic, methods of transformation that are extremely similar, if not identical in some places, to alchemy. Now, for those who might not have been following my alchemy streams, remember that alchemy is not about literally turning metal into gold. It's about transforming and purifying the self to reach higher and higher and higher levels of consciousness. My hair got caught there. So that's what we're talking about today. And we're going to get started right away. Just before I do, I want to remind you, as always, please like and subscribe. It helps out a lot. And become a member on this channel, because when you become a member on this channel, first of all, it helps. So thank you very much. Helps spread this information around. But also, you get access to a lot of different things, certain tiers. You get access to all of our members only video. And every member gets access to my alchemy lecture notes, free PDF downloads. There's 4 of them right now. And I'm going to be doing another one for this video, making a total of 5. And I'm going to be continuing to do this for all of the alchemy videos. And these are free to download for anyone who's a member. And they are extremely helpful. They're the type of thing that I wish I would have had when I was learning this sort of thing. And it helps out the channel a lot. Also, remember that my new book is available right now, Neogenesis, Dawn of the New Mind. Make sure you check it out. The link is in the description of this video. And you'll also find a link to my Spotify channel. Go follow me on Spotify. All right, let's begin. Like I said, today we're talking about the alchemical secrets of Jesus Christ, stuff that the church doesn't want you to know, that they tried to destroy, that they banned. And so as we take a look at these very interesting ideas, I want you to think about how we can apply this to our lives, because this isn't just some sort of interesting historical facts, but these are timeless methods of transforming the soul and transforming the self. And so, like I said, we've been talking about alchemy a lot. And next week, we're going to start on the first process of alchemy, which is calcination. But before we do that, I just wanted to talk about the Gnostic, the ideas attributed to the secret teachings of Christ, which are very, very powerful and very similar. And the reason why this is so interesting, and so by the way, a couple different things here. One, what I'm going to be reading for is from the Nag Hammadi Library. They are texts that were discovered in 1945, buried near the tombs of Egypt. Some monk is theorized to have buried them to preserve them from destruction by the church. And they're very old. They are anywhere from the 1st century to 4th century CE. And they contain extremely interesting information and information that's applicable today. And you can read this all for free, by the way, on gnosis.org. That's gnosis, Gnosis.org. Gnosis is Greek for knowledge. So check that out if you want to read this stuff for yourself. So let's just, like I said, I want to remind you that alchemy is not about turning metal into gold. Metal into gold is a metaphor for reaching higher and higher levels of consciousness, as the alchemical process of taking base metal like lead and changing it slowly to higher and higher forms, such as from lead to tin to iron to copper to mercury to silver to gold, etc. These are different levels, different gradations, steps of consciousness, until you reach the highest level of consciousness, connect with your divine self, and are manifesting your will into reality. This is essentially what alchemy is about. Now, that being said, let's just jump right into this, because it might seem how this all connects might seem a little unclear right now, but just as I begin, I think you'll see how it all connects. Okay. So the first thing that I want to talk about is the Emerald Tablet. Now, the Emerald Tablet is considered by some to be a foundational alchemical text. Now, I always have to make a disclaimer now because of Billy Carson. The Emerald Tablet of Hermes, which I am talking about, is not the same thing as the Emerald Tablets of Thoth or Thoth. They're completely different. The Emerald Tablets of Thoth are not real. They were created in the early 1900s by a guy named Claude Doggins or Maurice Doreal. They're not, he claims they're 36,000 years old. I think they're not. They're barely 100 years old. I forget exactly when in the 1900s he came up with these things, but they're not real, okay? Now, the Emerald Tablet of Hermes is real. It's real in that, not that it was written by Hermes, but it's real in that it's actually an ancient document. It's not 36,000 years old. It's dated back to somewhere around the 8th century CE. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because the Emerald Tablet, and many very intelligent people were interested in the Emerald Tablet of Hermes, including Sir Isaac Newton, who was obsessed with it. He even did a translation of it. He did a translation. And so it's a foundational alchemical text. And the reason why I'm bringing up is because, like I said, so, okay, according to legend, the Emerald Tablet of Hermes is like thousands and thousands and thousands of years old and originated in like ancient Egypt or something like that. But I want to make it clear that that's legend. You know, we don't know that that's true. What we do know is that our earliest references to it historically are from the 8th century CE. Okay, so there's legend, and then there's what we can historically verify. In legend, it's all the way in ancient Egypt. What we can historically verify, it's around the 8th century CE is when we start getting references to it. Okay, so the reason why I bring that up is because I'm going to show you how very similar the Emerald Tablet is to the secret teachings of Jesus. But what's interesting is the secret teachings of Jesus predates the Emerald Tablet, at least historically speaking, by hundreds of years. So like I said, the Emerald Tablet is 8th century CE. These Gnostic writings, these secret teachings of Christ, are 2nd and 4th century CE. So hundreds of years earlier, these came. But let's start looking into this, and I'll show you what I mean here. So first things first is most people associate alchemy with turning metal into gold or eternal life. Some people said, oh, the Emerald Tablet, it holds the secret to turning metal into gold. And other people were like, oh, it holds the elixir, it holds the key to the elixir of life, which was supposed to grant the drinker immortality. So alchemy in the Emerald Tablet has been associated with turning metal into gold or eternal life. Okay. Now, what does that mean exactly? Is, of course, we understand what this means. Is it turning metal, the secret to turning metal into gold, like I said, isn't literally about turning metal into gold. It's about reaching higher stages of divine consciousness, golden consciousness. And immortality is the realization that one is eternal. The realization that you're not just this body, you're an immortal soul. And so in that case, when you take the elixir of life and gain immortality, it's coming to the understanding and realization that you're eternal and that you're basically all reality and all things. Okay. The reason why I bring this up is because we see this here. So we're going to read a quote from the Gospel of Thomas. This is a Gnostic text. And this is what it says. This is what it opens with. The very first line of this book reads, "These are the hidden sayings that the living Jesus spoke, that Didymus Judas Thomas wrote down. And he said," meaning Jesus, "whoever finds the correct interpretations of these sayings will never die." So real quick, already we're having, these are secret teachings, meaning only some people are going to understand them. And whoever finds the correct interpretation, meaning that these are allegories. If they weren't, you wouldn't have to find the correct interpretation. They would just be straightforward, but they're not. They're metaphors, it's symbolism, they're allegories. Whoever correctly understands them will never die. Very similar to the elixir of life, this idea of immortality. It continues by saying, Jesus said, "The seeker should not stop until he finds. When he does find, he will be disturbed. After having been disturbed, he will be astonished. Then he will reign over everything." So this is discussing the different stages that one goes through when you have the realization of what you are and what reality is, when you understand the secrets, when you understand the interpretations. First, you'll be disturbed. That's the dark night of the soul. That's when you realize, wow, I'm not who I thought I was. reality isn't what I think it is. And you go through that phase of what is everything? Where am I? What's going on? So first you will be disturbed. After being disturbed, you will be astonished. That's when you realize, wow, actually, this is amazing. This is incredible. I'm beginning to understand how everything connects. I'm beginning to understand that I'm all reality and we are all reality and we're playing this game together. Then he will reign over everything. You will reign over everything. You will realize that you can become the master of your own mind, the master of your own soul as you connect to your higher self. And then together, collectively, we can manifest our will into reality. And this is it continues here by saying, and Jesus said, if your leaders say to you, look, the kingdom of heaven is in the sky, then the birds will be there before you. If they say the kingdom is in the sea, then the fish will be there before you. Rather, the kingdom is within you and it is outside of you. So this is again, Jesus Christ saying, hey, when you understand what reality is, you'll realize the kingdom of heaven it's not in the sky. It's not somewhere you go to when you die. Anyone who tells you that is lying to you. They're misleading you. Rather, the kingdom is within you and it is outside of you. It's a state of consciousness and the realization, that's the inside of you. It's the state of consciousness, the realization. And it is outside of you is the realization that this is our kingdom to shape and manifest our will, however we so will. If this is a little difficult to understand, a dream analogy is really helpful because it's like becoming lucid in a dream. When you are asleep and having a dream, you believe that the dream is real and that you're really in it. If you become lucid and realize you're dreaming, what happens? You realize that you are the master of the world around you, that everything around you is a projection of you. This is my dream. You've leveled up in consciousness and you've realized that you are a conscious being within a world that you've created. So it's similar here, except this world isn't one that you created by yourself. We have collectively created it together. This is a stable, persistent collective dream generated by the frequency patterns of our internal mental nature as eternal souls, as eternal zetas. If you want to know more about that, by the way, look into the Neogenian system. Links are in the description. It's described in my books. So that's very important to understand. And Jesus continues by saying, when you understand yourselves, you will be understood. And when you realize that you are sons of the living Father, and you will realize that you are sons of the living Father. If you do not know yourselves, then you exist in poverty and that you are that poverty. So we're having talking about knowledge of the self. When you know yourself, you will understand that you are the sons of the living Father, meaning you are divine. You're a divine being. You're not a broken, dirty, sinful, flawed being that is separate from God and needs some intermediary to have a weird pseudo relationship with. Rather, you are the direct emanation of God, the sons of, like Jesus is the son of God. You are the son of God. And this is, son, daughter, child, whatever. It doesn't matter. These are just the words that they used. Son just means emanation. You are an emanation of the divine. You aren't separate from the divine. You are a piece of the divine, a part of the divine. And he says, if you don't know yourselves, then you exist in poverty and you are that poverty. So you see, wealth is being used to describe the level of understanding of what you really are. When you don't know yourself, you're in poverty. When you do know yourself, you have riches. You have gold. When you know yourself, you have gold, not real gold. You have the gold of higher consciousness, the understanding of what you truly are. And if it wasn't clear enough, Jesus says, he who drinks from my mouth will become like I am, and I will become he, and the hidden things will be revealed to him. Now, what this means should be fairly obvious. No, it's not that Jesus has a weird kink. It's that when you, that's not super weird, by the way. He doesn't have a kink anyway. He who drinks from my mouth will become like I am means when you understand his words, drinking from his mouth means taking in what he is imparting. And when you do that, when you take in what he's imparting, when you understand his words, you will become him and he will become you. You will attain the level of Christhood. You will become a Christ and he will become you, because you're equal in that aspect, and that you're both part of this new consciousness. And so so far we can see very similar ideas to alchemy. Here we have secret hidden teachings that are discussing immortality and riches and levels of consciousness. Of course, all allegorically, not literal riches, not literal immortality, but eternal life, in that understanding that you are eternal, riches, and in the gold of knowledge of what you truly are. So I want to compare real quick with you guys to some of the texts of the Emerald Tablet. So the Emerald Tablet's very, very short. It's just a few paragraphs. But here's what the Emerald Tablet has to say. And remember, this is considered by some like a foundational alchemical text. It says, in truth, without deceit, certain and most veritable. In other words, this is true. I'm not lying to you. It's definitely true. That which is below corresponds to that which is above, and that which is above corresponds to that which is below, to accomplish the miracles of the one thing. So if you ever heard as above, so below, that's this. This is as above, so below. That's what this is talking about. The above corresponds to the below corresponds to the above, which accomplishes the miracles of the one thing. What is the one thing? It's like all reality. So basically all reality is a singular thing that operates on the principle as above, so below, as below, so above, meaning that all levels of reality are connected. The above with the below, or the spiritual and the material, or the inner and the outer. All of these levels, all levels of reality, there are correspondences and connections between them. That's essentially what that means, okay? And just as all things have come from this one thing, through the meditation of the one mind, so do all created things originate from this one thing through transformation. So you have as above, so below, as below, so above. Everything is one thing. Everything comes from this one thing, and everything originates from this one thing, but they're different aspects of transformations of this one thing. Okay? So let's see. The reason why I'm bringing this up is because I want to show you. So again, in the Gospel of Thomas, listen to the similarity here. Remember, as above, so below, as above. So Jesus says this. Jesus says, when you make the two into one, when you make the inside like the outside, and the outside like the inside, and the upper like the lower, and the lower like the upper, and thus make the male and the female the same, so that the male isn't male and the female isn't female, then you will enter the kingdom. Extremely similar. And some translations don't say when you make the upper like the lower and the lower like the upper. Some translations say when you make the above like the below and the below like the above, and it continues. So this is extremely similar, saying make the above like the below like the above. And on that note as well, there's another quote in, is it the Gospel of Philip, where Jesus says, this is in the Gospel of Philip, another Gnostic gospel. The Lord did everything in a mystery, a baptism and a chrism and a Eucharist and a redemption and a bridal chamber. We'll get to that in a minute. But he said, I came to make the things below like the things above, and the things outside like those inside. I came to unite them in the place. As above, so below, as within, so without. So you have these ideas being discussed here, very similar to the Emerald Tablet, but hundreds of years prior to the Emerald Tablet, if you take the historical evidence rather than the legendary attributes or date range. So let's see here. Okay, so my point is that what Christ is saying here is, it's going even a bit further than the Emerald Tablet, is that it's emphasizing Not just the above is like the below, and the below is like the above, and the inner is like the outer, and the outer is like the inner. Not just that, but Christ is saying he has come to make the two into one. In alchemical terms, this is known as the great work. It's the union of opposites, to bring together all opposites into a singular thing, the one thing. Remember the one thing? Everything is the one thing, just through different transformations, as the Emerald Tablet says. Well, this is basically saying the above, the below, the inner, like the outer, the male, the female, the outside, the inside. These are all different transformations of the one thing. When you unite them together, then you will enter the kingdom. You will realize what you are, where you are, why you are here, what existence is. You will have immortality, and that you'll realize that you are an eternal soul, an eternal mind. And remember, making the male into the female and the female into the male doesn't have anything to do with like sexual preference or gender identity or anything like that. In these terms, remember, like gold isn't really gold, and there's a lot of allegory and symbolism. When you talk about the masculine and the feminine, these are just talking about polarized energies. So you could talk about yin and yang. You could talk about logos and eros. You could talk about positive and negative. Just active and receptive. You don't have to even talk in these gendered terms. It's just when you're telling a secret story and you have characters in your secret story, that's a way to get across certain ideas. Unfortunately, people have taken a lot of this stuff literally, which is really gross. Like, God created Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve. So that means only, heterosexuals should get married. No, that's stupid. That's bullshit. That has nothing to do with any of this. These are different forces being discussed. And on that note, actually, Christ discusses Adam and Eve, where so in the Gospel of Philip, Jesus says, when Eve was still with Adam, death did not exist. When she was separated from him, death came into being. If he enters again and attains his former self, death will be no more. And if you look at other Gnostic Gospels, like the Apocalypse of Adam, it's described how Adam and Eve were originally a singular divine being. And they were basically split in two. This didn't literally happen. These are allegories, these are stories, or these are metaphors saying that when we, and so what are these for anyway? By the way, this is about becoming whole personally. We all have an inner aspect that is the opposite of our egoic self. In the Neo-Genian system, we call this the mirror self. In terms of Jungian psychology, this is known as the anima and animus. So Carl Jung believed that every man had an inner feminine called the anima, and every woman had an inner masculine known as the animus. This is a helpful way to understand things simplistically, but we know it's much more complex than that. That's why in the Neo-Genian system, we use the term mirror self instead, just to say everyone has an inner opposite. That way you don't have to get all mixed up with the way people have misattributed, mislabeled what gender is and try and make a mess of it. So it's just your inner opposite. But this is what it means when Adam and Eve come together. And Jesus continues by saying, indeed, those who have united in the bridal chamber will no longer be separated. Thus Eve separated from Adam because it was not in the bridal chamber that she united with him. So basically, Adam and Eve weren't separated in the bridal chamber. The bridal chamber is like the unified mind. You're unifying yourself, the unus mentalis. And so what we have here is this idea. So in the Gospel of Philip and in Valentinian Gnosticism, they talk about the bridal chamber all the time. The bridal chamber, the bridal chamber, the bridal chamber. It's where the bride and the groom go into this bridal chamber and unite and then achieve transcendence. Of course, this isn't meaning literally. It's not even about two people. What it is about, it's about uniting with your inner opposite. And so in terms of alchemy, this is actually the fourth stage of alchemy. So in alchemy, there is 7 steps, depending on which interpretation you take, with calcination and dissolution, separation, and then the fourth stage is conjunction. Conjunction is about uniting the opposites together. So it can be interpreted that way. And uniting all opposites completely in terms of like the soul and the spirit is the great work. So this discussion of constantly of the bridal chamber unifying masculine and feminine it's the fourth step of inner alchemy. So we already have, Jesus talking about unification in the bridal chamber, talking about understanding secrets that you will become immortal, essentially, when you understand them and have the riches of the knowledge of what you actually are. And so, okay, here's something really cool that I want to talk about here. Now, since we're on the topic of uniting male and female and all that, in the Gospel of Philip, this is also the gospel where it describes that Mary was Christ's favorite disciple and kissed her on the mouth. Remember, this is all allegorical. Doesn't mean that literally happened. It might have. It's possible that it did, but honestly, I don't really care. These stories are about what we can learn from them rather than what is historically factual or not. That's why I take a psychological projective approach to these stories. I'm not worried about who actually wrote them or how or whatever. We understand that these are stories. And it's so funny to me because people who believe in the Bible are like, these are just stories, It's like, yeah, the whole Bible is just a bunch of stories. It's how we can interpret them and learn from them in a metaphorical and allegorical sense. So anyway, Jesus kissing Mary on the mouth is not about, just them describing a physical relationship that Jesus and Mary had. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. But rather, it's about showing the unification and equality of the masculine and feminine forces. And so basically, Jesus is Mary's masculine counterpart, and Mary is Christ's feminine counterpart. And when they kiss and unite, they become whole. They become one. Remember, this is allegorical. Doesn't have anything to do about this is all within you. All right. It's not two people. It's one person and uniting with their inner aspects. Okay. So this is where it says Jesus loved Mary more than all the disciples and used to kiss her often on her mouth. So actually, to be fair, it says that he used to kiss her on her blank, and then we don't have the rest of the page got destroyed, and we don't. Very dramatic. On her, and then it's destroyed. But most interpretations of it, most translations of it, just put mouth because most people think that it probably said mouth. Because there's a lot of other. I mean, yeah, it's very pretty much no, they probably said that. But anyway, just to be clear. So, but that's very interesting. This unification again with Jesus and Mary. But here I love this. This is a really cool aspect here. It says there were always three who walked with the Lord: Mary, his mother, and her sister, and Magdalene, the one who was called his companion. Thus, his sister and his mother and his companion were each a Mary. So once again, remember, this is allegorical, not literal. So it's not, they all happen to be named Mary. Isn't that funny? No. It's describing three aspects of the divine feminine: the sister, the mother, and the companion. These are all different aspects of the divine feminine archetype, and they always walked with Jesus, shows that Jesus has integrated those aspects into himself. They're always with Jesus. The three Marys are always with Jesus, these divine feminine archetypes. And this Gospel of Philip, the whole thing is about the bridal chamber and the opposites being united and Adam and Eve being united. And so clearly this is what this is talking about. But what's super cool about this is that this is very similar to the idea in paganism of the triple goddess. So the triple goddess is super cool. So the triple goddess can be understood as three aspects of the divine feminine, representing different aspects of feminine energy and its role in the cycles of life, nature, and spirituality, which are the maiden, the mother, and the crone. The maiden represents youthful energy, purity, and creation, innocence and beginnings. The mother symbolizes nurturing creative force, fertility, love, and abundance. And the crone reflects wisdom, transformations, and mysteries, endings, rebirth, knowledge, transcendence. So you have this idea of this triple goddess, the maiden, the mother, and the crone, which is really similar to the three Marys of the mother, the sister, and the consort. And what's really cool is that some consider Hecate to be the original triple goddess. So you see a lot of similarities here, which I think is really cool. Now, remember in the Emerald Tablet, we talked about the one thing. Remember, everything comes from the one thing and the one mind, and everything originates from this one thing and one mind through transformation. We have that clearly spoken about in the Secret Gospel of John. In the Secret Gospel of John, Jesus says, and this is kind of long, so I'm going to go through it kind of fast, but take a look at this. The one rules all. Nothing has authority over it. It is the God. It is Father of everything, Holy One, the invisible one over everything. It is uncontaminated, pure light no eye can bear to look within. The one is the invisible spirit. It's not right to think of it as a God or as like God. It is more than just God. Nothing is above it. Nothing rules it. Since everything exists within it, it does not exist within anything. Since it does not depend on anything, it is eternal. It is absolutely complete and so needs nothing. It is utterly perfect light. The one is without boundaries. Nothing exists outside of it to border it. The one cannot be investigated. Nothing exists apart from it to investigate it. The one cannot be measured. The one cannot be seen. The one is eternal. It exists forever. It's inconceivable. The one is indescribable. No one can put any words to it. The one is infinite light, purity, holiness, stainless, incomprehensible, perfectly free from corruption, not perfect, not blessed, not divine, but superior to such concepts, neither physical nor unphysical, neither immense nor infinitesimal. It is impossible to blah, 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 blah. I think you get the idea. The one is majestic, the chief of all realms, the producer of all realms, light producing life, blessedness producing blessedness, knowledge producing knowledge, good producing goodness, mercy producing mercy, generous producing generosity. It gives forth light beyond measure. His realm is eternal, peaceful, silent, resting before everything. He is the head of every realm, sustaining each of them through goodness. So as you can see, very similar to the Emerald Tablet's one thing and one mind, where everything comes from it through transformations. But this is, a lot more detailed, vastly more detailed. And these are just small little things that I'm reading. Each one of these are fairly lengthy books. I mean, depends how, and compared to the Emerald Tablet is just a couple paragraphs, but these are quite long in comparison to the Emerald Tablet. I'm just reading to you some highlights that are extremely similar. So, and then so the Emerald Tablet continues to talk about, this is where the four elements come in. All right. Its father is the sun, its mother, the moon. The wind carries it in its belly. It nurses it in the earth. It is the origin of all, the consecration of the universe. Its inherent strength is perfected if it is turned into earth. Separate the earth from fire, the subtle from the gross, gently and with great ingenuity. It rises from earth to heaven and descends again to earth, thereby combining within itself the powers of both the above and below. Combining powers of above and below. Thus you will obtain the glory of the whole universe. All obscurity will be clear to you. This is the greatest force of all powers because it overcomes every subtle thing and penetrates every solid thing. In this way, the universe was created. From this comes many wondrous applications because this is the pattern. Therefore, I am called thrice great Hermes, having all three parts of the wisdom of the whole universe here, and have I completely described the operation of the sun. So we're talking about here basically like the four elements, two principles, manipulating the four elements and understanding how everything is, how you combine everything within itself of both the above and the below. When you understand all this, when you combine all these things, you'll obtain the glory of the whole universe. Very similar to the secret or the Gospel of Thomas, where Jesus says you'll understand everything, you'll be astonished, and you'll reign over everything. All obscurity will be clear to you. This is the greatest force of all powers because it overcomes, and In this way, the universe was created. So, and this part's very interesting. From this comes many wondrous applications because this is the pattern. So this is really cool. This is almost like holographic theory, where the author of this is basically saying, when you understand what they're basically saying what I'm telling you is a blueprint or a pattern. And when you understand this blueprint or pattern, it will have many applications because it applies to everything. So kind of like, a hologram or something where every part is in the whole. If you understand a part of the thing, you'll understand the whole thing, because as above, so below. Everything is a holographic reflection of everything else. So essentially, what this is saying is when you understand this pattern, everything will be made clear to you. You'll understand everything because this is the pattern that everything follows. And so we had the discussion of the elements, and I want to talk about some discussion of the elements that's discussed in these different gospels as well. So in the Gospel of Thomas, Jesus says, "I have thrown fire on the world. Look, I watch until it blazes." Now we always have to be careful, just like, we want to remember male and female uniting isn't about gender preference or sexual preference or gender identity or anything like that. It's about uniting the inner opposite. So likewise, when you have things like, I have thrown on the fire in the world, I'm going to watch it until it burns. You don't want to think it's about like destroying everything or causing problems. But fire in alchemy represents the destruction of the old so that the new can be created. That's why the first step, which we're going to study next week on Monday, this coming Monday, is calcination, which is the element of fire, which is about burning up the old self so that the new can rise from its ashes. Obviously, you're not literally setting yourself on fire. Don't do that, okay? It's not what it means. It's metaphorical. And so, likewise, when Jesus is saying, "I have thrown fire on the world, look, I watch it until it blazes," doesn't mean we should set the world on fire. It means it's about destroying the old so that the new can be established. Jesus said, "Whoever is near to me is near the fire. Whoever is far from me is far from the kingdom." So a lot of associations with fire. And now here's another cool aspect is we're going to talk about the four elements in a very negative way. Why? Because the four elements are something that we need to understand how to overcome. And so in Gnosticism, it's believed that the material world is ruled by these evil, dark forces of ignorance, okay? And it says here, the host of rulers and demons plotted together. So these are the rulers of ignorance, the forces of darkness, the forces of ignorance, and they are plotting. They mixed fire and earth and water together with four blazing winds. Does that sound familiar? Fire, earth, water, and air. They mixed fire and earth and water with four blazing winds. They melded them together in great turbulence. So they're taking the four elements and merging them together. Adam was brought into the shadow of death. They intended to make him anew, this time from earth, water, fire, and wind, which are matter, darkness, desire, and the artificial spirit. This all became a tomb, a new kind of body. Those thieves bound the man in it and chained him in forgetfulness, made him subject to dying. So this is essentially saying how the four elements can become a cage to trap you. So remember, in alchemy, the four elements have nothing to do with the actual physical world when it comes to inner spiritual alchemy. What it has to do with they're archetypes of the mind. So fire represents will and action and movement. Water represents emotions and the unconscious. Air represents the mind, the intellect, and earth represents the physical world, but not in terms of like physically, but in terms of groundedness, stability, manifesting your will into reality. It has to do with your relationship to the material world. And so in alchemy, learning to balance or master the four elements is about learning how to master these four aspects of yourself, of your psyche, so that you can become a whole individual and have power over yourself. But of course, if you haven't mastered these four elements, they can what? Be very confining. Your emotions can run out of control. Your fiery desire can take you to places you don't want to go. You can get stuck in your head. You can be obsessed with material things, etc. It's when you learn how to balance and organize them correctly that you gain power over yourself, power over your life, and can manifest the kind of life that you want. So this is essentially talking about how these forces can be used by the powers of ignorance, when you're ignorant of them, when you haven't mastered them, to trap you. And so what do they associate this with? Earth, they associate with matter. Water, they associate with darkness. Why? Because what does water represent? Emotions and the unconscious and intuition. But when that's not navigated correctly, water is often a symbol of the unconscious, which is a symbol for the dark depths of where your shadow self is, where all your darkness is. So this is why water here is being represented as darkness. So earth with matter, water with darkness, fire with desire, because remember, fire is will and desire and movement and action. But if your desires aren't controlled, or if your desires aren't properly applied, it can trap you and get you into trouble or places or move you into places that you don't want to be. And then wind is the artificial spirit. Why is wind the artificial spirit? Because wind is associated with the intellect. And so it's essentially saying it's the artificial spirit, because the true spirit is that which, according to like alchemy and whatnot, the true spirit is that which drives you towards higher levels of consciousness and divinity. That's the true spirit, which would be like the fifth element, right? The fifth element is soul or spirit. They're similar. You want to unite soul with spirit. Anyway, the spiritual plane, the fifth element is essentially spirit. Here, they're saying the fourth element of wind is the artificial spirit, because wind is intellect, but it's the artificial spirit in these terms, in the way that they're talking about in Gnosticism. It's going to keep you, intellectually focused on material things, earthly desires, darkness, etc., rather than the true spirit, the fifth element, which drives you to higher and higher divine levels of consciousness. So this is where it says they intend to make him anew through earth, water, fire, and wind, matter, darkness, desire, the artificial spirit, and this all became a tomb. And they bound humans in it, made them forgetful, and made them subject to dying, took away the immortality. And it even continues by saying, what else did these evil beings do? They split man, or just humanity, into two, into male and female. They separated that union. So you can see that these archonic forces are all like the opposite. They're the antithesis of the alchemical process, in that the four elements are not used in a way that's mastered or organized, but in a way that's entrapping, because they command you rather than you command them. And it's the splitting of the one into two, the separation. And so alchemy is the reversal of that process, where instead of the elements mastering you, you master the elements and unite with your inner opposite and become one and whole again, thus able to defeat the archons, the rulers, thus able to defeat ignorance. They represent ignorance, so that you will know what you are, where you are, and why you are here. Okay, so let's see. I am looking at my notes here, and I've been talking for a while. I think we're probably going to stop it there, but what I really wanted you guys to see, because we talked a bit about how the crucifixion can be looked at as the 7 steps of inner alchemy, and I just wanted to continue. I wanted to have all the references to Christ and Gnosticism close together and in one area. So I'll have lecture notes available for a free download as PDFs for those who are members. So look forward to that. They'll be available very soon for this. The other 4 are available right now. And then, now that we've discussed this and got this chunk finished, we're going to continue now to the actual 7 steps. The first step being calcination, fire, Saturn, lead, the destruction of the old self so that you can be able to create your new self. And that will be perfect because it will be the first stream of, no, it won't be the first stream of the new year, but it'll be the first Monday of the new year. And that's perfect for new beginnings. So I hope you enjoyed this, my friends. Let me know. Tell me what you think. I always am curious, you know, when we learn about alchemy, does exploring these other ideas and seeing how they connect help, or is it just more confusing? I also kind of want to do it to show you how like alchemy is kind of a key to understanding many. See, I bet after understanding alchemy and you were to read Gnosticism, so many of these things would make more sense. Oh, that's what earth, fire, wind is all about. Oh, that's what the one mind, the one thing is. Oh, that's what the bridal chamber and the above and the below mean. So you'll see that alchemy, and the reason why I wanted to talk to you guys about alchemy to begin with is because it serves as a really nice key to easily understand other esoteric ideas, whether that's Gnosticism or Kabbalah or magic or tarot or rituals or whatever. You'll see that alchemy is a really nice foundation to have as a key to more easily understand these other systems because they share very similar ideas, as you can see, like in the context of Gnosticism. Anyway, tell me in the comments if things like this helps, if you enjoy hearing these connections. So yeah, make sure you become a member. I appreciate it. Check out my book, Neogenesis, Dawn of the New Mind. Links to all my books are in the description of this video. And if you're interested in more like alchemical types of topics, I also recommend this one. This is Psychogenesis, Self and Universal Transformation. I don't talk about alchemy in this, not with the words alchemy, but it is essentially, it's the process of alchemy, just put in terms of psychology. So using psychology terms and contemporary terms rather than using like alchemical allegories or symbolism. Anyway, check those out. I appreciate it. And a big shout out to everyone who supports, especially Renaissance Fairy, Cassidy, Angela, DB, Nusalina, Dallas, Digital Tech, David, LaDonna, Grace, Kira, Val, and everyone else. Thank you very much.